So I apologize for a little loopy, but we're constantly on duty. Someone's always on duty when officers show up for when crises happen. In Alexandria, we are what's called CIT trained, it's crisis intervention training. All of our magistrates are, and that's a way for us to identify whether we're dealing with someone that may have a mental health issue that also has a criminal issue attached to it and how to de-escalate. Not everyone's cooperative, regardless of who you are in front of them. Some people are completely belligerent because they're drunk, and some just don't want to cooperate because they tell themselves they are sovereign citizens. So it's a little bit on the difficult side, but I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I really enjoy my job, probably a little too much. But, and then sometimes you have a situation where you are able to provide resources. We also have what's called pre-trials, kind of like probation before a judgment's made. And sometimes we can recommend someone for pre-trial if we believe that maybe this is a situation where although there's a criminal aspect attached to it, there may be a deeper issue going on. They can be monitored for substance abuse and things of that nature. So it's kind of like we kind of guard the gates, I like to say. And I love every second of it. The rotating shifts has me a little. If I had to pick one thing I didn't like so much, it would be that. But it's a great job, it's a great opportunity. We make, I think, a great difference. Sometimes there are things we can't change because we have to be independent and impartial. Some decisions are outside of my hand. All I can do is make the decision, make the bail determination, have it move forward to court. And I think that's about it, yeah.
So Department of Commerce, huge agency, cabinet level agency, has 13 agencies under it. The agency that's my client is the Census Bureau. I work in Employment and Labor Law Division, so if I was downtown at Main Commerce, I would be kind of over all the other 12. Luckily, I'm at Census, so Census is the only client. Typical officer, general counsel really tries to keep the agency out of litigation. But Census is a huge entity. It has about 6,000 people currently. The decennial they'll be coming up in 2020 will staff up to about 500,000 people. So 500,000 people, more litigation probably. So first day I started my job, they gave me 3 EEO cases, a board case, the collective bargaining agreement that I had to get familiar with. So I try to take a different approach to litigation. I truly feel like relationships, like I said before, are huge, but also how you say things to people are very important because a lot of times people will take your tone almost before they, the substance of what you're trying to say. So I do encourage settlement a lot in a lot of cases. Sometimes you have to litigate, and a lot of stuff that I learned in school, I'm literally taking, let's say, a motion for summary judgment that I learned in like a pretrial drafting class, and I'm using that. I've already used it like 3 times already. So a lot of stuff that I learned in school helps me every day on the job. We do a lot of training, legal training for managers, so they know, what potholes not to step in, depositions, doing discovery. That's a big part of the job. I like getting to know people, so like yesterday I had a long conversation with our union president, and he let me know his stance on things. I let him know my stance on things, but I told him, I was like, listen, I'm never gonna lie to you. I literally, you're gonna see, I'm transparent. You're gonna see everything, all my cards. I just want what's best for the agency, just like he wants what's best for the union. So I think it's always about, I'm always looking to build relationships. So going forward, they say that in the next 2 years, our EEO cases are gonna quadruple. People are gonna be temporary employees, they get fired after the decennial. They're probably gonna allege they were fired because of either some type of protected class. It's gonna be hard, but then you try to settle what you can. I have a hearing in Indiana coming up this summer. Go out there, try to do the best I can, but I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and just solve problems, which I feel like as a lawyer is a huge skill. And in any office of general counsel for the government, that is our main mission.
The life as a law clerk is basically to make sure the judge is fully informed of what the law is. As you'll learn in law school, juries are generally, they make determinations of fact, whereas the judge makes determinations of law. And so my days are usually a mix of 2 types of things, either being in court, being with the judge, and if that's if we're in the middle of a trial, that would be the entire day as in court, or if it's motions hearings, it would take up pieces of the day or other types of hearings. Those are civil and criminal in nature, and so when I'm in court, essentially I'm just an active listener. When attorneys are mentioning cases or bringing up some area of the law that the judge and I hadn't talked about prior to the hearing, I usually will print off a case or print off relevant case law and or statutes and provide them to the judge on the bench so that he's informed as the proceedings are happening real time. This is a very interesting experience in order to see how attorneys behave in federal court, what they wear, how they act, the things that they say to both the jury and the judge, and then getting to hear afterwards the judge's perspective. This is what I thought was compelling. This was the thing that pushed me the wrong way. And it, I think, helps prepare you for ultimately being a litigator after being a law clerk. When we're not in court, law clerks generally do a lot of writing and legal research. And so, as you may be familiar, case law is promulgated generally through judicial opinions. And so, whether that opinion is addressing a motion or is resolving, a case in its finality, the law clerks would help to either would generally draft a bench memoranda for motions or things that are being ruled on from the bench orally, or would help draft the opinions that are ultimately what ends up in the case books that will be your reading material for the next 3 years. It's interesting in that sense as well, because your legal research and writing is constantly being critiqued by a judge directly. You get direct feedback, and so you learn again what works and what doesn't work. So when you are on the other side, when you're no longer impartial but you're representing a client, you know what sorts of things would rub a judge the wrong way, what sorts of trigger words would be things that are maybe a step too far, or what sorts of things are actually persuasive to a person in his or her position. So I think it's been a great experience so far. I really enjoy my day to day. I feel like I'm where the law happens, and so whether it's civil or criminal, I do feel as though it's a nice segue from law school into a legal career.
So we are wrapping up this panel, but I don't want to leave without giving you an opportunity to ask questions. I know it's a lot of information. Many of you may feel a tad overwhelmed. Just a smidge. Do you have any questions that maybe the panelists could address before we wrap up?
Jumped up on that one.
Yeah, how does looking for a job go in tandem with studying and taking the bar?
Well, I got lucky that I was able to get my appointment in April before I started studying for the bar. It's a very stressful time. Studying for classes and doing that is hard, but I mean, you're in law school. I'm assuming that if you're all here, it's because you're all type A's who don't mind spending 12 to 14 hours a day doing this, because that is, wherever you go, that's what you're gonna be doing. So the awful answer is that's just how it is, but that's how it is for any part of law school and your career.
So what I would say is the summer before your 3-year, we are all type A, right? Law school, very type A. You want to be prepared the summer before. You're probably also going to be doing internships where you're going to say, I want to work in this office. So you're going to talk to people to say, how do I apply? So the ideal scenario would be that you are already ready and it's already set up. For clerkships, if you are looking for a clerkship, judges book those like a year before you're going to start, maybe even longer than that. So you want to jump on those clerkships right away. I got lucky that my judge somehow had a lapse in her hiring schedule, and she hired me a little later than most people get hired for clerkships. But there's always going to be someone who had a clerk set up who had to back out because they got another job offer, and the job offer said you have to start now. We won't defer for your clerkship. So for clerkships, I would say start as early as possible. If you get stuck in the scenario where you don't have a job where you're studying for the bar, that's okay. A lot of people do. I did graduate with a lot of people who graduated without jobs, and it was stressful for them, but it ended up working out. Just make sure you stay in contact with OCPD. Make sure you stay in contact with your professors. They'll let you reach out to alumni. I got my clerkship from an alumni, right? Or through an alumni. So that's really, you're just gonna have to have a game plan, but it is okay if you graduate without a job. There are plenty of people who do that.
Just think about this. My friend Matt had a job at FINRA where he had to show up all summer while studying for the bar.
Right.
So it could be worse, right? You could have a job.
And most of law school is time management, to be honest with you. you're gonna get that phrase thrown at you several times throughout your law school career. You're going to learn to be on a schedule, and you will learn how to manage your time. That doesn't mean you don't have fun, it's just schedule's fun. So after law school, the same thing applies, you're going to manage your time. Applying for jobs is gonna be another job in and of itself, but you need to pass the bar to kind of get the job, so
And
you just have to
honestly,
manage that time.
we start working with you. We work with you the entire time that you're here, but we want you to make sure that you have a plan going into your final year of law school. And that plan means, what's your outreach going to look like? What direction? We come up with the different paths. And there's one strategy as the year starts. The strategy changes a little bit as the year progresses. And then after you graduate, we have a conversation that says, okay, we need to focus on 2 different tracks. So if you graduated, you've taken the bar, now you're looking for a job. Some people just need a break. And they travel and then they come back and they're like, I'm ready. So we have a conversation and we talk about 2 different tracks. One track is I need to eat. And the I need to eat track says, all right, I need to look for employment that may be quickly obtained. So if my long-range goal is to get into the federal government, that's a longer game, especially for federal government attorneys, because you have to, even if you have the job, you have to go through the clearance. It could take several months depending upon what level you're going in at. And so the I need to eat track is important. I need to eat, I need to pay bills. My child is shaking her head. She's like, yeah, I need to eat track is really important. And then the other track as well. And so we talk about all of those things. So you're not just thrown in there alone. We'll come up with a plan. We'll make sure that you're going in the right direction. And especially once we know the area that you're interested in, I will start to say, I know this person, I know that person, I know this person, go and talk to them. Here's their information, they know that you're going to call them. Go and have coffee with them. Don't ask them for a job. Ask them who they know and who's the next person that you can talk to, or 2 more people you can talk to who may have some additional advice, because you're building the network. Ask them if you can send them your resume, because then they'll have it. They'll see how amazing you are, because I review resumes. So for alums and current students, I'll review your resume, I'll help you rework it, I'll review your cover letter, I'll help you prep for interviews. So we're here as a resource to help you. You're not by yourself.
Can I add just one thing to that? If you're interested in, it's different than a federal agency hiring schedule, but if you're interested in working at a law firm, a lot of that is determined well in advance. So the on-campus interview program that Catholic University puts on actually takes place at the end of the summer between your 1L and 2L years. And then the interviews take place, and if you're afforded the opportunity to have what would be an internship after your 2L year, that's when the law firms traditionally make determinations as to whether they'll be giving you a job. So I would say, at least in my circumstance, even though I have yet to go to the law firm and I'm still a year and a half away, I've had that lined up now for over 2 years, about 2.5 years now. So if that's the route, I can't speak to the federal agency route, but for the law firm route, a lot of that is determined well before studying for the bar. So you really can just focus, because it's in the law firm's best interest that you sit down and buckle and study. They don't want to have offered you a job and then you didn't have enough time to study. So I think that concern maybe is, if you're interested in law firms, is maybe not significant.
And keep in mind, that's actually big law. So big law hires through, for the most part, big law hires through OCI, which is on-campus interviews. The people that are interested in going into big law get the job. They actually, summer there before they graduate. So the year before they graduate, they're summer associates. And then they go into their final year of law school and usually have secured a job by then. But small to mid-sized firms operate very differently. And so small to mid-sized firms typically hire around this time of year. So people that are still interested in doing law firms but don't want the big law, there's still opportunities for them at law firms. We actually now have a list of small to mid-sized firms that we give to students. We send it to them electronically. It's not exhaustive, but it's a great place to start looking. And there are a lot of law firms here in the city, small to mid-sized firms that actually hire students right around this time of year so that they know that they have something, or right after they take the bar.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Very quickly.
I don't know if like it's something that everybody knows, but which bar did y'all sit for to work here?
I took Maryland and I passed in Maryland, but I had originally signed up for the Virginia bar, and then I got my job in the federal government. I was like, why would I take a harder bar? So then I took Maryland.
I took Virginia.
I took Maryland.
Maryland.
Maryland, I'm from Maryland.
So
Smartest
that's,
one in the room.
that's changing.
A little bit. Barely.
Smartest people in the room.
So
Slackers.
there are a couple of factors that are important to consider with that. One is if you're going to a firm or an organization, they may require you to take a particular bar. For me, I was going into big law. The firm had DC and Virginia offices. This was before the UBE, and so as a result, they wanted everyone to take the Virginia bar. But now with the UBE and being able to take your score and move around, many people take the DC bar. Actually, a lot of people take the DC bar now. And Maryland bar is now moving towards UBE as well. And as a result, it's increasing the numbers of people that are willing to take Maryland. I don't know if Virginia will ever go to UBE, but we'll see.
And I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea. It's not that at Catholic people only take Virginia, Maryland, or DC. People
Yeah.
have taken Massachusetts,
Yeah.
New York, California,
New York is the-
Washington State.
Pennsylvania.
Anywhere in the country, we have Catholic alums who have taken bars in all those states.
Yeah.
Massachusetts is the easiest. They call it Massachusetts. just in case you wonder why people go to Harvard, it's because of Massachusetts.
On that note, thank you all for joining us. Feel free, this is, again, networking begins with your peers and the people on the panel, so talk to each other. Same thing when you start law school. Networking begins at home, so you network with each other, you network with the faculty, you network with panelists when they come, and then you do external networking with people outside. So get started with your networking work today.
And we'll stay and hang around to answer questions.
And we all have
If anyone-
business cards if you don't get a chance to.
I'm a millennial. I don't have a business card on me, but I'll give you my email.
Thank you so
I
much.
have cards with me.
Always.
Always a pleasure to come.
Never.